of the Media Foundation for West Africa. Sir, you're welcome to Eyewitness News.
Thank you for having me, Amaro.
You've been quoted elsewhere saying that what the NCA did not follow due procedure. I just spoke to the NMC executive secretary. He will not say to me whether or not they were involved, but I wanted to hear your reasoning for saying that what happened was unlawful.
Well, the summary of what we are saying as an organization is that the NCA used the wrong approach to do the right thing. In other words, given what was happening in Bawku in terms of the radio stations and their role in the ongoing conflict there, any decision to shut down the station is in the interest of the public. However, given that we have laws governing the operations of media, one would expect that when institutions are making decisions of this nature, they would follow due process. And in this case, it's about either doing so in consultation with the NMC or actually doing so based on a decision of the NMC. Because if we don't do that, we may set a bad precedent that tomorrow somebody simply says, oh, well, Citi FM, what you are doing by criticizing the government can actually instigate people to demonstrate against the government, and therefore that is a national security concern, and the national security has advised that the NCA should shut it down. That is something that we would want to avoid, certainly. And so I think that our appeal is that the National Communications Authority should do these things by following due process. But Maru, let me say that, as you said that the NMC didn't indicate whether they were consulted or not, that for me is the problem. In fact, the problem with our media landscape really is the inefficiency of the NMC. I'm sorry to say that. George is my very good friend and my senior brother. But I think we are at a time where we must say things as it is. The problems when it comes to media regulation, the unethical issues that are happening, the unprofessional issues that are happening, it's mainly because we have an NMC that is really quite inactive and has perhaps allowed, that is what has allowed the NCA to begin to make these unilateral decisions. It happened with Radio Tong. Of course, what the station was doing was problematic, but when they shut it down, we raised the same concern. But like I said, we have a media regulator that has basically gone to sleep. And so the frequency authorizer essentially is stepping in to do what the NMC ought to be doing.
By the law, are you suggesting that if NCA officials showed up with military personnel, in like we have been told happened in Bawku, I should ask them for a warrant from the NMC, and that it is the NMC that can first give that directive before NCA executes?
It depends on the reason why the NCA is acting. So, for example, you've gone for a frequency from the NCA, and the NCA has given you the authorization to use the frequency. If you then decide that you want to use that frequency to set up a telephony company, or you want to use that to set up as an ISP, an internet service provider, or to use that frequency for other purposes other than what you have been provided, you have been given the frequency to do, that is a technical thing that the NCA can say, look, we didn't give you the authorization to use the frequency for other things than radio or than television. Or if you decide to use the frequency to do some other things that would interfere technically with the operations of the airways. For example, you are given 97.3, and then you decide that you want to use 97.4 as well. That is a technical matter that the NCA can say, look, you are interfering with the technical issues of frequency arrangement in this country, which has a national security implication. That has nothing to do with content. But when the reasons for shutting you down is because the NCA says, oh, you are doing programming and saying certain things that by their estimation or by national security's estimation, what you say border on national security and all of that, then they are getting into content, which is the domain of the National Media Commission and not the NCA. The NCA is not set up to listen to radio stations and say your content is right or your content is wrong. That is the mandate of the National Media Commission. And so it all depends on why you are being shut down. In this case, in the case of Bawku, of course, the owners couldn't have protested if there are security people there. But I suppose that if they decide today to say, look, it is the NCA that shut us down on the basis of, their assessment of the propriety of our content. And as far as we know, by law and by the Constitution, the NCA does not have that mandate to say that our content is this way or that way, and therefore we think that they have shut us down inappropriately and illegally. I think that they would have some basis in terms of legality. But as I said, knowing the situation in Bawku, I think that the radio stations and the way they were operating was really problematic and was inflaming the tensions there, was contributing to the conflict there, as a result of which a lot of people have died. And therefore, as I said, the NCA has done the right thing, but they used the wrong approach.
I see. So should we rather be holding the National Security Secretariat responsible for this? Because it appears that they gave the directive to NCA and NCA operated or obliged. Now, NCA listens to national security. We all are supposed to listen to national security. If they come to NCA and say that we have determined that ABC will breach the national security, move in and act, I don't think they would need to go sit with NMC and go through a roundtable discussion before, should they?
Absolutely, you are right, Umaru. If the national security says, look, what is happening if we don't take this action, by tomorrow we will see a lot more lives lost and all of that, and the NCA is the body with the technical competence to be able to take down the frequency, they may not be waiting to say that we want to consult the NMC before we take this action. But like I said, if the NMC were to be active and robust, the national security would have communicated with the National Media Commission to say, look, this is our assessment, and we think this action must be taken. On the basis of which the National Media Commission could have then said, okay, we think we agree with you, and therefore, together with the NCA, let us go with the action. But here we are. The NMC says that it cannot even pronounce itself on whether they were consulted or they were not consulted. And that, for me, is the problem. By now, NMC should be saying the kind of things that we are saying. That, yes, we think that the decision that was taken, if it was based on national security advice, and we all know the volatile situation, what we want to protect, first of all, is not the frequency, but lives. And so if the decision would lead to the protection of lives, we have no problem. But we think that as a media commission charged with the responsibility of determining whether content is right or content is wrong, and also the fact that if we allow these decisions to continue, where the national security can say, oh, shut down this station because we think it has national security issues, it will create a problem for us. And therefore, we think that going forward, the NMC or the NCA needs to always consult the NMC on matters like these, and we would have agreed. And this is also because way back in September, October last year, in fact, I spoke to the executive secretary, my good friend and senior brother, George Sapo, about the situation in Bawku and the stations there. I have engaged MPs from the area. And sometimes my question is, look, why are you people not interested in working with the National Media Commission to ensure that the right things are done? But, like I said, the NMC that is supposed to act has been quite dormant and ineffective, and therefore the NCA is stepping in, and by stepping in, they do the right thing using the wrong approach. And that is, for me, the problem.
Thank you so much for speaking to us.
Thank you, Umaru.
That's Suleiman Abrahima. He's Executive Director of the Media Foundation for West Africa. Let's hear now from the Ghana Independent